We are very pleased to welcome Jason Kotecki of Madison, Wisconsin. Jason is the author of several books, including Escape Adulthood and There's an Adult in My Soup. He's also a prolific artist and the creator of Kim and Jason, a comic strip about childhood, which has delighted readers all over the world. Jason grew up loving superheroes and Star Wars. Since then, he has not changed much. He still loves Star Wars and still thinks he's a superhero. Actually, sometimes his whole family does too. Jason also enjoys collecting fun retro t-shirts and eating sugar-laden cereal. He has had a number of jobs in his life, but his favorite one yet is being a dad. Jason is here today to help us live and work with less stress and more fun. Please join me in welcoming Jason Kotecki.
Thank you. Well, this is how all the good stories start. Actually, that's not exactly true, is it? There are some other ways to go about that. That's what I want to talk about today is stories. You know, the choices that we make and the actions we take every single day are telling a story. Your story. Is it a good one? Like if they made a movie about your life, what would it be called? Would they title it like It's a Wonderful Life? Or would it be something like Speed? Or You've Got Mail? Or Fight Club? Or Nightmare on Elm Street? Something like that. The problem is that our stories are under attack every single day. Which shouldn't surprise us because every good story has a bad guy, right? Your story has a bad guy. Some of you might be thinking, I have a few bad guys in my life. But there's one I want to talk about that you've probably never even heard of before today. This bad guy is so powerful it can turn us from this into this. It's very serious. You see, we start out young, enthusiastic, full of energy, full of passion. And somewhere along the line, for most of us, we kind of morph into something more like this. It's pretty powerful, pretty serious, pretty bad. What is this bad guy? It is adultitis. All right. Again, most of you never heard of this before, so I'll start at the top with a definition. What is adultitis? Adultitis is a common condition occurring in people between the ages of 21 and 121, marked by chronic illness, mild depression, supervised stress level, fear of change, and in some extreme cases, the inability to smile. Onset can be accelerated by next to bills, responsibilities, or a boring work life, generally patient with condition often to be around. This is the official medical definition of adultitis, translated from Latin, and it's pretty serious stuff, okay? Some warning signs to look out for. If you're the type of person whose cell phone has become a body part, that's one indicator. I think this is the first Bluetooth phone right here. If the place where you have more and more of your meals looks anything like this, that would be another one. If the idea of a spa day to you is something like this, that would be another indicator. Let's see, if you take your to-do list, I have nothing against organization, but if you take your to-do list a little too seriously, that can be a problem. And even more than that is if you take yourself too seriously. So seriously that you would be unwilling to share your sophomore year high school yearbook picture with a complete group of strangers. Yeah. I would like to go back in time and tell myself that no amount of cool guy smile could ever do anything to offset those glasses, right? Nothing can be done about that, but those are good times. And finally, if this next one doesn't at least make you chuckle a little bit. Okay, not any laughter, then you definitely have some sort of adultitis, okay? Now you may be wondering, what does someone with adultitis look like? Can you tell if someone has adultitis? Well, not often. Sometimes it's hidden, but a trained expert can usually distinguish these things, okay? So I wanted to give you an idea. I have some slides I put together where there's two people on each slide. One of them has adultitis, one of them does not. And don't feel bad if you can't figure it out. That's what I'm here for. Like this one, the guy on the left, the green guy, he has adultitis. Okay, the other one, not so much. But pay attention because the Grinch is probably the most famous full-blown adultitis sufferer of all time. But there's always hope. No matter what level of adultitis you have, if you remember his story, at the end, his heart grows 3 times the size, right? There's always hope. Okay, here's another one. Now, I didn't want you to think like just because you're green doesn't mean you have adultitis, right? Yoda over there, no adultitis whatsoever. And another point is that age has nothing to do with adultitis. He's like, what, 900 years old? Right? Adultitis has nothing to do with how old we are. It's about how we look at things and how we see the world. And finally, this one, wanted to mix things up again so it's not always the person on the left. It's Mr. Rooney here who has the very bad case of adultitis. And if you work in a school long enough, that can happen to you. So what I wanted to do, though, since we have some time today, is to give you a chance to find out for yourselves what stage of adultitis you have, if at all. Okay? My wife Kim and I, Kim is a former kindergarten teacher, and we co-founded the Cure Adultitis Institute. In fact, the little handout cards you guys have on the back, it says get tested for adultitis. If you go to that website, you'll find out everything you ever wanted to know about adultitis, including there's an intake. Now, I have a sort of an abbreviated version of that. So does everyone have like something to write with, hopefully? Or even if you just use your phone and just kind of like, it's basically a 6-question multiple choice quiz. All you have to do is keep track of what letter you put down for each answer. Okay? And be as honest as you can with yourself here, because the more honest you are, the more accurate your results will be. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a scenario, and your job, there's going to be 4 possible ways that you could respond to that scenario. Your job is to pick the one that fits you on a normal day. Fully realizing there's probably no such thing as a normal day, right? But I'm definitely not talking about when you're here at Unleash, or a day off. It would be a fairly typical workday, all right? So number 1 is this. When my alarm goes off in the morning, I typically, A, groan, hit the snooze button, and bury my head under the pillow. B, smile and jump out of bed. C, sit up, yawn, and contemplate my day. Or D, throw my freaking alarm out the window. So go ahead and just put down the letter of the one that best describes you on a normal day. All right, number 2. If I was at a formal dinner and someone noticed toilet paper stuck to my shoe, I'd probably, A, remove the toilet paper and demand that whoever is in charge of keeping the restrooms clean should be fired. Number 2, subtly kick it off and act like it was no big deal. 3, smile and say, I guess it never hurts to have some extra on hand. Or D, immediately leave the room and avoid that person for the rest of my life. Number 3, when a child dances in front of your cart at the grocery store. For those of you with children, this is not your child, okay? This is some random kid, okay? What would you do? Would you A, ignore her and wait for her to move? B, smile, wink, and wave? C, yell at her to move it or lose it? Or D, wonder why parents can't keep their kids under control? Number 4, children are A, awfully cute, but best when quiet. B, my role models. C, little guides who have wisdom that I often overlook. Or D, those annoying things that spill stuff, ask too many questions, and scream on airplanes. Two more. This is what I think about following dreams. A, my dreams are so big I think most people think I have issues. B, I don't really have time for my dreams. C, 3 words, get a job. People should spend more time with their feet on the ground than their heads in the clouds. Or D, I do have dreams, but I try to keep them realistic. And finally, number 6. I would estimate that I laugh approximately A, 5 to 10 times a day. B, 10 to 20 times a day. C, way too many times a day to count. Or D, how am I supposed to laugh with the whole world going to pot? Now, I can assure you that this intake was put together by some very high-level doctors and psychologists from places. And but it may resemble, if you've ever done one of those Cosmo quizzes too. It's kind of similar to that, where every letter you put down has a corresponding point value associated with it. So go ahead and figure out how many points you got for every answer, and then add them all up to get a grand total. Does anybody need a calculator? I'm wondering, is a high number good or bad? Does anybody need a little bit more time? Okay, a little bit. You know, we should have orchestrated to have ribbons for whatever stage you end up with, and you could add that to your name tag. That would have been kind of fun. I didn't even think about that. Okay, everybody have a number. Okay, is there anybody in this room that has 6 to 9 points? Raise your hand. See 1, 2 of you. Am I missing someone? Okay, a couple of you. This is actually good. Okay, don't be alarmed. This is actually negative. You are adultitis free. You may be able to easily recognize. Yeah, give my hand a round of applause here. It's very rare. If you know someone you think might have it, which is pretty much everyone else in this room, you may be their only hope. Okay. How about 10 to 14? All right, that's usually the biggest chunk of people. This is stage 1 adultitis. Okay, it is not terminal. You're okay. It's don't want to alarm you. You have a mild case of adultitis. You may be experiencing fits of chronic dullness. Okay, it's where a lot of our population tends to reside, as well as this one here. 15 to 19. How many of those we got? Okay, good sizable number. This is stage 2 adultitis. Okay, you've progressed to a very aggressive form of adultitis. You may be experiencing very high stress levels, maybe having difficulty laughing. Seek help now. Fortunately, you're in this room, so you're currently seeking help, even though you didn't even intend to necessarily. All right. How about 20 to 24? No one that's going to admit it at this point, right? Like, I know where this is headed, right? This is bad. This is full-blown adultitis. Your life is spiraling out of control. People no longer enjoy being around you. Okay? Don't despair, however, there is hope. Always remember the Grinch. Always remember the Grinch. No matter where we are, we always have hope. And the reality is we're usually fluctuating between these stages. The most important thing is to be aware of it and to be aware of how it's coming after us. Because, you know, I clearly like to have a lot of fun with this topic. But there are some serious dangers of adultitis. One of them is bad health. Okay, 3 out of every 4 doctor visits are for some sort of stress-related condition, and stress is the #1 side effect of adultitis. Pretty much, stress has been linked as a contributing factor to every single thing we can possibly die from. And I didn't really want to give a whole hour talk on that. So, but it is. We have this chronic levels of stress. It really takes us to and can lead to things like heart disease and cancer and things like that. The other thing is bad relationships. I don't know if you've ever tried working with someone with a high level of adultitis or living with someone with a high level of adultitis, but that's not good either. It messes up our marriages. It creates stressful working relationships. It screws up our relationships with our kids even sometimes if we're really full of this stuff. So adultitis is after our health, our relationships, and it's really just happy if it can have us living boring stories. All right, just going through the motions, doing the same thing, sort of sleepwalking, if you will. How do we live a better story? This is sort of a question I'm always asking myself. How can I live a better story? Because I think, for the most part, all of our stories could be at least a little bit better. And there are some tips, some things I want to share, things that I've learned along the way. Maybe they'll be useful to you. First of all, I don't know if you consider yourself this, but you guys every single one of you could consider yourselves a superhero. I know some of you dress up like superheroes sometimes in your spare time, but all of you, if you think about it, the people that you work with every day, they think of you as amazing, right? Like what you're able to do with technology, which in some ways seems so easy and second nature to you, to the majority of the population is like, how do you do that? I don't, like they don't get it. And so in their mind, you're a superhero. You get things to work, you make magic happen. But sometimes, as we learned last summer with the Avengers, sometimes there's problems that are bigger than just one superhero, bigger than what we can tackle. And so that's why this conference is so great. Because you guys get to get together and not only learn from each other, team up with each other, vent with each other, right? Because there's something about people who get what you do. And so I have a feeling that's probably one of the favorite things you like about this, is finally getting to talk the same language as other people and to be able to team up. And that's a great way to help our stories, especially the stress levels. Because when we're out on an island and we don't really know, no one else can really get the stresses that we have and the frustrations that we have, being able to connect with other people who do is huge. Do you remember when this was the most technologically advanced gadget that you owned? Do you sometimes wish we could go back to that? I know this is sort of like probably blasphemy to stand on this stage and say that, we need to unplug once in a while. Talking to people who are experts in technology, but, I love my iPhone. And when I was 12, if you would have told me all the things I would be able to do with my iPhone, I would have assumed that there would also be like a jetpack in my closet at the same time. It's amazing what we can do with this stuff. And we're more connected than ever. But I'm sad to say that I'm not sure that we're connecting better than ever. I hate when I go to a restaurant and I'll see a family out to eat and they're all face down on their smartphones, right? That's family time. That's no good, right? I think sort of like he said in Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility. This technology that we have is a great power, but we have to use it wisely. And when we get caught up, always being distracted, always being on and connected, that can really impact our stories. And we're missing out on some of the other important things that are going on. And here's the thing about adultitis is it's very stealth. It's very stealth. Likes to kind of slide under the radar a little bit. Doesn't want us to know what it's up to. So I want to share a little story about how it works, how adultitis likes to sneak into our stories. So this is me and my daughter Lucy. Now Lucy's a little over 4 now, but in this picture she was about 4 hours old. And when Kim and I found out that we were pregnant, by the way, do you like how guys do that? Just throw that in. Yeah, when we were pregnant, oh my gosh, it was so hard. Oh, it was a rough one. No, there was nothing pregnant about me at all. Right? So, let's be honest. What was my role? 4 minutes. 5 if it was a good day, okay? But I took my role as like wingman. I guess I was like the wingman, right? Seriously, okay? So I went to all the appointments with her. I bought books on Amazon and read some of them. And, I was very excited to be a dad. And I would tell people. And I was speaking like, I want to be dad. And they'd cheer and they'd give me a round of applause. But I probably shouldn't have done that because I didn't realize that afterwards, everyone and their grandmother was going to come up to me to give me their advice on parenting. And of course, it's all over the board, right? And it's very confusing when you're kind of going into this for the first time. You don't know what you're supposed to be doing. Well, after a while, I started to notice there was this one piece of advice that people started giving me over and over and over again. It's very simple. They would say, enjoy every minute because it goes by so fast. I see some nodding heads out there, right? No doubt, probably from experience. I didn't even have kids yet, and I was like, oh yeah, time flies. They grow up so fast, Thinking, I don't know a lot of stuff, but if I know anything, I know that. I don't need to worry about that one. But thanks anyway, right? Right. We all need to be reminded from time to time. In fact, that's really what my business card should say, is that I am a professional reminderer. You guys, the stuff I'm going to talk about today is not rocket science. It's not stuff you've never heard before. But it's stuff we need to be reminded about because we get so busy and caught up in living that we forget some of this stuff. So people would say, enjoy every minute and So it was about 3 months into this whole parenthood thing. Kim and I were in our apartment at the time. Kim was on the couch taking care of Lucy. I had my laptop open, and I had a list of things I desperately needed to get done that day. So I am focused, like a laser beam, right? Checking email, doing things on our website. And lo and behold, a miracle happens, in which I finished my list more quickly than I thought I would, which was a miracle, right? Because normally it takes 3 times as long. So I close my laptop. I think, well, here's my chance to be super dad, super husband. I turned to Kim. I said, if you want me to take care of Lucy, because I'm done with everything I need to get done, if you want me to take Lucy so you can go take a shower or take a nap, or she was gone. It was like the Roadrunner cartoon, is what it was like. It was like, beep, beep, puff of smoke, she's gone, Lucy's in my arms, bottle appears out of nowhere. And here I am sitting in this glider that we had gotten, and I'm sitting with my 3-month-old little girl, and she finishes the bottle, and she falls asleep. And I'm just kind of looking at her, and I'm still in awe of the whole thing. I'm thinking, this is by far the coolest thing I've ever been a part of. I mean, she's so cute and small. How do they make fingernails that small? China. And, she's as any dad will tell you, she's the smartest girl who's ever lived, and she smells good right now. And I'm thinking, this is sort of like heaven on earth. I could just sit here all day long, and that would be just fine with me. And it's been a minute. So then my productive side of my brain started to kick into gear, and I started to look over at the couch, and I looked at my laptop, looked at the couch, looked at my laptop, and I thought, well, if she's just going to sleep, she could sleep just as easily over there on the couch as she could in my arms. Put her down, and I'll grab my laptop and get some more emails checked. Well, as I reach for my laptop, it hits me, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. I'm missing out on the best stuff. Now, am I saying that you can't try to get work done when your kids are sleeping? No. That's why God invented naps. But if you remember, I said I had everything I needed to get done. But the dirty little secret is, and you guys know this all too well, there's always another email to be checked, isn't there? There's always somebody that needs to be called back. There's always some project that you've got to get to. There's always something. And the other reminder I need to share, and this is going to freak some of you out, so be warned. Every single one of us is going to die with stuff on our to-do list. Like, when is he done? I got stuff to do, right? But we act like the game of life is to get things done. Check things off list, to cross things off. Isn't that often how we judge if it's been a good day? Did you get everything done? Oh, got everything done. It's a good day. That's the wrong game. That's not the point of life. Right? Now, for me, I was lucky because I had been given all this advice I did not ask for. It somehow stuck in my stubborn, stupid little brain. And I put the laptop back and I brought Lucy back into my arms. And when I was able to let go of the idea that I was just sitting there doing nothing, and I was able to realize that I was not, in fact, doing nothing. I was able to be present and relax in the moment. And I sat there for another hour with my little girl. As I was sitting there, I daydream a little bit, and I'm thinking, 20 or 30, or if I'm lucky, 40 years from now, on her wedding day, when I'm walking her down the aisle or having that father-daughter dance at the reception, I realized I was never in a million years going to remember what I checked off my to-do list that day. She's only 4 years old, and I don't remember what email was so urgent that I needed to put her down to go check it. But at the time, it seemed so important. And that's exactly what adultitis is all about. Adultitis wants us to focus on the busy, urgent, noisy things, while the most important things are happening right under our noses. And so that was, to me, that was a huge reminder, because I know that even though I would never remember what email I checked or what I got done, I remember those days that I spent that extra time with her when she was impossibly small and cute and tiny and wasn't talking back. And what a short window that is, right? And no one told me about that, how short that window is. Now, I now also have a son, Ben, and I've gotten better at this whole, doing nothing thing. But it's still a challenge. I'm going to be honest with you, it's still a challenge. You know, Kim and I, we have a house now, and the upper level is where we live, the lower level is where our business is. And there's times where I'm playing in the living room with the kids, and I kind of would rather be downstairs working. And I always feel insanely guilty about that. And but then I read a book by Clayton Christensen. It was called How Will You Measure Your Life? And in it, he brings up the point that we as human beings are naturally wired to seek out things that give us a sense of accomplishment. Usually things that don't take very long, because when we accomplish something, we get this sort of like hit, right? That this natural high that we did something. So that could be, you know, finishing a report, setting up a system, learning a new technology, taking care of that junk pile of mail in your counter. Like those things, we do it, it's like, oh, good, I got something done today. The problem is that, you know, things like raising great kids or building an awesome marriage, that takes years, that takes decades. And especially with kids, you don't even know if you're doing a good job sometimes until they're out of the house. And so it's really easy for us to kind of trade off and make these little choices like staying longer at work, not using our vacation days, taking calls on weekends, that in the grand scheme of things, in the moment, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. I'll just take this one call and then we'll be back to it, right? But those choices, we make them over and over and over again. They start to add up to tell a story. And it might not be the story that we ever intended on telling in the first place. Speaking of the vacation days, I'll just real quick, I shouldn't even have to talk about this, but CareerBuilder.com did a survey and they found that Americans only use about 10 out of their 14 vacation days, which leaves 570 million vacation days unused every year. You know, if you're not using your vacation days, you can't really complain about how bad your story is. Okay, that's just it. Another one, beta mode, right? Beta mode means what? It's not perfect. We're trying to figure it out. That's what beta mode is. You are in perpetual beta mode. So give yourself a break. You don't have to be perfect. You know, it seems like there's three types of people. There's people that think they're perfect, all right? There's people who are trying to be perfect, and when it's not perfect, they all freak out. And then there's people who are just trying to appear perfect, so no one else knows that they're not, right? We're not perfect, right? When we act like we're supposed to be perfect, when things are supposed to be done perfectly, we get all stressed out when they're not. Kids, on the other hand, have no such illusions that things they're going to do are perfect, right? They're always trying things. They're spilling things. They're messing things up. If kids expected to be perfect, we would never have learned how to ride a bike. Too much falling down, right? But we're not supposed to be perfect. We can't be perfect. And so cut yourself a break. This is my son, Ben. He's 16 months old now. And we went to Santa Barbara, California a few weeks ago. A couple months ago, actually, now. And he's not even 2 years old. He's a natural-born flirt. I mean, he's on the plane, and he's looking around for who he can smile at and what ladies he can make eyes at. And, it's weird, but he'll have women that'll just stop dead in their tracks and smile at him. He'll have guys who will just be, full-grown men playing peekaboo with him, because he's just so, this infectious smile that he has. And I realize he's sort of like, he's viral. Because when Ben smiles at you, you can't help but smile back. Unless you're dead inside, I suppose. Whoops. But that's how he is. And I know that there were a lot more smiles in Santa Barbara when we were there than if we wouldn't have been there. Well, the same is true of you guys. You are viral. You can spread smiles, optimism, enthusiasm, or you could be a harbinger of adultitis with the people that you work with. It's up to you. You are viral. What are you spreading? Whenever you order something online, and there's in the checkout, there's like that box of like, would you like to receive special promotional offers? Sometimes the box is unchecked. You have to check it. Sometimes it's checked for you, and you have to opt out. Right? And if you're not paying attention, you may end up receiving things that you're not interested in. Too many times we are living our lives with our boxes pre-checked. There are all sorts of norms of things that you're expected to do, things we just naturally do without thinking of them. Things like, you're supposed to get a job for the money and the benefits. Or if you have a job, and even if you don't really like it, that's okay, because you just wait till you're retired, and then you can do something you actually care about. There's the idea that you're supposed to have two incomes. Like a family cannot survive unless it has two incomes. There's stories that you have to have two cars. There's stories that it's okay, you just put money on your credit card and just carry a debt. That's normal. Everyone does it. You have to subscribe to cable. Who doesn't subscribe to cable? Like, there's all these sorts of things. Well, just because other people are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, overwhelmed, overworked, overburdened with their financially, doesn't mean you have to. We can opt out of some of these assumptions. Now, it's not my job or my intention to tell you which boxes to uncheck. You may end up making all of the same decisions, and that's perfectly fine. I would just want you to be mindful about them. Make them your choices, your decisions. And it might mean doing something differently than everyone else, but it might make for a better story. And if you're not conscious of it, if you just kind of go with the flow and keep those boxes checked, you may end up with a lot of stuff you never wanted in the first place, like debt and regret and stress. So last year I got to check off something off my bucket list, which was to go to Comic-Con in San Diego, which is, I like to call the Nerdpocalypse. It is basically, for those of you who don't know, it is where 125,000 geeks descend on San Diego to celebrate the popular arts. And it takes about 10 minutes to walk 10 feet. There's so many people. And I had a lot of fun. People asked me when they knew I was going, they said, "Are you going to dress up? Are you going to be one of those people who dress up?" I did not dress up. But I very much enjoyed watching the other people who dressed up like their favorite heroes and villains. And of course, as you imagine, there's a lot of guys, but there's also a lot of girls. There were some couples, which was pretty good. And probably the most adorable was the kids, seeing the kids all dressed up and all excited. It was sort of surreal, walking around. You'd see just random stormtroopers walking around as if it's normal. I don't know if that's Ian Wilkinson. I've heard about you right there. I'm not sure if that was you or not. Could have been. But I felt like I was in Cloud City, just sort of like they're just on patrol, and it was kind of cool, I saw some pretty neat celebrities like Tony Stark and Spider-Man. But don't mistake that, it's a gruel, okay? There's a lot of walking, there's a lot of people, you just get really tired, and you can really wear you down, especially if you're only eating the convention food. By the end of it, you just can really take its toll on you. But I did notice something as I was kind of roaming the aisles amongst the sea of humanity was, there was a lot of people who were, waiting in line for a long time to be able to buy something or meet somebody or get something for free. And I was thinking about how all of the different shows and movies that were highlighted, how much time that takes to keep up on those sorts of things. And I started to realize that the rock stars of that event are the creators. They're the writers, the artists, the directors, the producers, the actors. And I started to think about this idea of being a creator versus being a consumer. And I started to kind of get the picture that it's a better use of our time to spend time actively creating stories than passively watching someone else's. We get one shot at this life that we have. It's up to us to build something wonderful. It's up to us to be creators. And of course, I'm not talking, there's music and art and cooking and theater and those sorts of creativity things, but it's more than that. You might be creating a great marriage. You might be creating a great childhood for your kids or your grandkids. You might be creating a wonderful, rich experience for people who are doing the long-distance learning thing. There's a lot of things that we can be invested in creating. And I think that's the best use of our time, is to focus on being creators rather than consumers. So when it comes to stories, I think that part of what makes a great story is just having it filled with great scenes. Like one of my favorite movies ever is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and it's filled with great quotes, great scenes, and things like that. And, our lives, as we go through lives, we have normal, natural things that happen, like getting married or having kids. Those are good scenes, right? But there's a million of other ways we can create scenes to create richness in our stories. You guys know who this is, right? Pokey, right? I happen to have one with me right here, a Pokey. And this guy, my wife Kim and I have been playing a game with him for probably a decade now where we take turns hiding him on one another. I know, very mature, right? But it's very simple. It's like Kim might take a shower, reach for the shampoo bottle, and behind the shampoo bottle, she finds Pokey. Then it's her turn. Whoever finds him then has to hide him. And so a few days go by, I've completely forgotten about the whole game. Pour myself some Captain Crunch, and out of the box tumbles Pokey, back and forth, right? And it's fun. We play. It's hard when you're not expecting him. It's hard not to smile a little bit when you see him out of nowhere. Now, we did not invent this game. There are many, many people who play similar versions. I'm sure there's people in here that do similar things with their coworkers or family or whatever. In fact, I was in California a few years ago. There was a mom who came up to me after one of the programs, and she said, that Pokey game, we played a very similar game, but we used Waldo. The red and white guy with the red sweater that you look for in the book. She said, and I have to tell you that my husband was the champion of this game. He was so good at where he would hide Waldo. He was in the most unusual places. And my kids would go delirious when they would find him because he was always kind of in these most unexpected places. And she went on to tell me that her husband had passed away a year earlier from cancer. And she said he died. We only found out he had it about 3 months before he passed away. And he died right on Thanksgiving. And she said it was about a month later, Christmas time. It was the first time that the family had gotten together since the wake and the funeral. And it was my turn, she said, to host Christmas. And with the circumstances being what they were, everyone came. Everyone wanted to be there. And she said, I did not have a very big house at the time. So everyone was there. And she said it got pretty stuffy pretty quick. There's just a lot of bodies. And if your family's like mine, with a lot of hot air going on, right? And she said someone suggested maybe we should open some windows and turn on a ceiling fan and get some air moving. And so they did. And when they turned on the ceiling fan, Waldo came flying out, hit someone in the head, landed in the middle of the table, and they all just sort of stared at it. And she said that was the last place my husband had hidden Waldo. He got us one more time, she said. And she said, I'm telling you the story because, yes, it was emotional. Yes, there were some tears when we realized what had happened. But those tears did not last very long. They turned to laughs when one by one each of the kids went around the table and talked about their favorite place where Dad had hidden Waldo. Remember when he hid him in my mashed potatoes? No, they had a little different one. And I love that story because it's a great reminder for me and hopefully for you that, we spend a lot of time worrying about big stuff. Don't we? We talk about, the economy and healthcare and unemployment and all sorts of, war, terrorism, all of it, right? But I've found that when you get to the end of your life and you're on your deathbed and you've got your closest people gathered around you, those big things never seem to make the conversation. You know what does? The little stuff. The games we play with each other, the inside jokes we shared, the adventures we had with our partners in crime. The scenes. In the end, it seems like the scenes are the things that mean the most to us. Now, am I saying that we shouldn't try to fight the big things and tackle the big problems? No, not at all. I'm just saying we need to be more mindful of creating more of these scenes with the people we care about and our coworkers and, the people that are in our lives. And so something like this is an easy one, you guys. You guys could start this today. Again, with coworkers, with a spouse, with a friend. You have people that are siblings that play it when they go over to the other person's house. They try to smuggle it into the house and hide it on them, until they find it. And so like in our house, when Pokey goes missing, it's actually a good thing. It's not a reason for alarm. It just means that the scene is continuing. The story is going on. Another idea, this one comes from a book Kim and I wrote called The Escape Plan. And, the idea was people said, okay, if I have adultitis, how do I get rid of it? And so this is sort of our treatment plan. And it's filled with 40 different challenges that get you thinking and acting in a more challenging way. And this one is very simple. Souvenir from childhood. Add something childlike to your workspace or home. Now, for the more geeky among you, you probably have some of this stuff already. Like this is my board of directors here, okay? You don't have to go overboard like this. You don't have to. All I'm asking is for one little meaningful thing that reminds you of your childhood. It could be your favorite toy. It could be a picture of you opening your favorite toy on Christmas morning. It could be just a picture of you as a 5-year-old. Put it somewhere where you get stressed out a lot. Maybe it's at work. Maybe it's on the dashboard at home or on your car. Whatever. Let it serve as a reminder not to take yourself too seriously. Let it serve as a reminder that you are in perpetual beta mode. Because that's where a lot of adultitis comes from, is we get our ideas that things have to go a certain way, and then they don't, and then we get freaked out, and it causes all this tension. Even something as simple as like these googly-eyed stickers. Put these on various things around your office, and you have one of those days where it's a Monday, and you already wish it was Friday. We all have those days from time to time. You have one of those days, and you're just kind of like, someone makes some ridiculous request or a last-minute thing that you have to do, and you're like, this would have been nice to know 2 weeks ago, right? You all have that, right? And you have that moment where you're just going to freak out, but you just figure, well, maybe I should just breathe for a second. You see that your stapler is smiling at you. That may be all you need. Remember, I said adultitis is stealth. Sometimes we need reminders like that to say, adultitis, I know exactly what you're doing there. Nice try though, but no, it's not going to work. This is not that big of a deal. I'm not going to even remember this 5 years from now, right? Those little reminders that we can set up for ourselves are a huge way to fight adultitis on a daily basis. Because otherwise, it just kind of sneaks into our stories without us even paying attention. This is one of my favorite ideas of all. It's called Sticky Cup. Now, you guys could descend on Madison with force with this one, okay? It's very simple. All you do is get an empty fast food cup. Empty. Preferably with the lid and the straw still on it. Tape it to the top of your car. Go for a drive. That's it. Just drive around. Now, be warned, okay, because some people won't even notice. But there will be some people for which you have just created a national emergency. I kid you not. There will be people who will drive miles out of their way because they got to tell you that you have Taco Bell in their car. Oh my, they have Taco Bell. We got to get out there, right? And they're like freaking out. And you and the people that you have in your car, you're just like, just keep it together, act natural, which is going to be hard because eventually there's going to be that stoplight where you have to stop, and they pull up next to you, and they're blaring their horn and like pointing, you have Taco Bell in your car. And at that point, if you want to just kind of like turn and smile, like you have no idea, and then just keep driving. Just keep driving. Telling you there's no easier or cheaper way to have fun in any economy than Sticky Cup. All right? The key here is to make sure you're living while you're still alive. Sometimes we have to take some risks, right? I know sometimes we can be trained to be risk averse, but it's important that we take some risks time to time. And I'm not talking about legal sorts of risks or bodily harm sorts of risks. I'm talking about something a little scarier, which is the risk to step out of our comfort zone in order to do something maybe a little unusual or unconventional or silly in order to create a scene with the people we care about. So along those lines, sometimes when Kim and I get a chance to travel together, we'll bring a video camera with us and we'll film ourselves doing some of the escape plan challenges. And this is a video of one we did in Colorado Springs, and I'll just let the video speak for itself here. We're here in Colorado Springs at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. We're about to do challenge number 11, which is You're Not the Boss of Me. The point of this one is to do something your parents would never let you do as a kid. So we're here at the zoo. You can buy 3 crackers for $1 to feed the giraffes, which you can probably see behind me. And I'm pretty sure if we were younger, my parents took me here, I'd be able to feed the giraffes. But I'm pretty sure my mom would not let me feed them with my mouth. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure I want to allow myself to do this, but we're going for it. It's going to be experience. Some guy I met at a gig said he did this before, and it's cool, so we're going to go for it.
Ready?
Go for it. Going in. Dear Lord. Okay. Oh, that was pretty cool. Okay. Not too bad. Try it one more time.
All right, here we go. Okay, it's fun. Take it this guy?
Sure.
We decided to get a little more adventurous.
We're going to do this again. We're going to load up here. Try it, bud. You ready? Kiss me.
Happy.
Gotta go again? You dropped it, Tim. What a tease you are.
Take it. Just take it.
I'll be the first to admit that idea sounded a lot better from the hotel room. Okay? We almost chickened out, but I'm glad we didn't, because clearly we created a scene with that one. All right, so finish this sentence for me. Every single one of you may have a different way to answer this, and if you are on Twitter, feel free to answer it on Twitter if you want. If I really want to live a better story, then might make sense for me too. Everyone here may have a different way to answer that. It's the most important, well, it's not really a question, but it's the most important statement that I want you to walk away with, because the reality is we'll probably forget most of this. I had a good time. I hope you had a good time, but I want you to at least have one thing that sticks with you. So whether you tweet it out or write it down on the inside of these little cards, there's a place where you can say my takeaways, stuff to remember, anything that you want to remember from this. Then an easy way to do that is then just take out the credit card you use most often and wrap this around it. It's the perfect size for that. So every time you pull it out to get gas or whatever, your ATM card, you'll be reminded of what it is you want to do. And it doesn't have to be a million things. It could just be one thing. I'm sure you guys remember Cracker Jacks, right? Best part of Cracker Jacks is what? Free prize, right? Sometimes it's a little chintzy, but it's always the thing you're digging for, right? Well, I always like to give away something free whenever I talk. And so today I wanted to give away a copy of one of our books. It's called There's an Adult in My Soup. And there's a lot of pictures in it. And so it's like one of those kind of like a Chicken Soup for the Soul book where you can pick it up and it's like 2 or 3 pages of a little story, and then you can flush the toilet or whatever, And but it's something I want to give away, and it's the person who gets it is actually the person who has something taped to the back seat of their chair. So if you reach between under your bottom seat cushion, you may have to stand up and look. It's kind of awkward to have to tape it so you wouldn't see it. And if you're buying an empty chair, you can claim that yourself. It's not a label. It's something three-dimensional. There it is. What is it, sir?
Pokey.
It's Pokey.
I know what I'm going to do with Pokey.
Can you pass that on to him? You're welcome, sir. Pokey was hiding there the whole time, and with these folding seats, it's very tricky. Also, the little handouts. There's a place for sign up for our free email newsletter. If you thought this was a good reminder, if you had good reminders in here, the weekly newsletter is kind of like that. It's a weekly reminder, something that I write with some idea, something to try, something fun to do, something to think about. There's a little comic strip at the bottom. If you're interested in that, just fill it out. It's free. There's a little plastic box over there on the way out that you can dump it into. And everyone who signs up for that today will get access to the digital copy for free of There's an Adult in My Soup for your iPad, Kindle, Nook, PC, whatever. So if you sign up, you get that for free. So the last thing I just want to share is, one of my goals as a parent. I'm still pretty new to the game, but one of my goals is for them to grow up to be awesome. I want my kids to be awesome. And what I mean by awesome, what does that mean? It's, I hope they have a lot of friends, but I really just hope they find a couple of really great friends. I hope that they can support themselves, but I hope they can support themselves doing something they love, something that makes a difference in the world. I hope that they're willing to stand up for what's right, even if no one else does. I hope they stand out in a sea of average and are willing to break rules that don't exist and opt out of the things that we just kind of assume we have to do. Hope their lives are filled with wonder and magic and love and meaning. I'm not exactly sure how to make that happen. I'm not sure. However, I have an idea that probably the parents who let their daughter go to a princess party dressed up like the Dark Knight I think they're on the right track. I think anytime we can teach our kids that, to do the same thing everyone else is doing, that's probably a good lesson. I think anytime we can learn that lesson ourselves is probably even better. So I hope that you guys will continue to do good things and that you will strive to make your stories awesome. I hope that I've made a case today against adultitis. I hope that you've seen that adultitis is it's a sinister foe. It's after us. It wants to ruin our relationships and our health. It wants us whining about the weather and worrying about the economy, doing the same things we've always done, living by those check boxes. Wants us to keep going through the motions until it's too late. Until that night, you get the late night phone call that nobody wants to answer. Or the day your doctor delivers the news that nobody wants to hear. Your life is a story. Make it a good one. Refuse to coast through life accepting the plot that's set out by other people. If there's difficult things going on in your life right now, which no doubt there are, use those as the setup for an amazing underdog story. Don't look back with regret at missed opportunities. Just embrace right now. Because if you're still breathing, there's still story to be told. So break some rules, uncheck those boxes, embark on some exciting adventures, create some crazy scenes with the people you care about. Listen to that child inside that's still inside every single one of you. Be brave, be bold, regret nothing. For the sake of your friends and your family and your coworkers, for the sake of yourselves, go live a great story. For although this is the end of my presentation, it's just the beginning of your once upon a time. Thank you, guys. God bless you.